So 2021 was a pretty wild year, and over the last year we've learned a lot of things. And one of the things that I never expected to learn but became very obvious as the year went on is that the Yeezy Slide is the most popular pair of Yeezys. Now that wasn't always the case. In fact, for a long time the Yeezy 350 V2 was the most popular, and I think even to this day there's the most pairs of those shoes out. But recently the Yeezy Slide has become one of the most sold items on platforms like StockX, GOAT, and even eBay. Not only that, but it seems like foam shoes in general have become incredibly popular, like the Yeezy Foam Runner. This is one of the most bought and sold pairs of Yeezys after the slides, and is one of the most popular pairs of sneakers of 2021. And I mean, personally, I get it. This shoe was one of my favorite shoes of 2020 and continues to be one of my favorite shoes into 2022. But for some reason, I had never really jumped on the Yeezy Slide train. I don't know why that is. I love foam shoes, but I just didn't get it. I usually choose sneakers over slides in almost every single situation except for maybe going to the beach. So when it started to become obvious that the Yeezy Slide was becoming one of the most popular forms of footwear available, I realized I had to grab a pair and I had to try it out. What's up everybody, I'm Seth Fowler and I wore the Yeezy Slide for a month straight, and this is what happened. But before we dive into the video, I want to give a huge thank you to the sponsor, Whatnot. Whatnot is a live shopping auction platform based around community. Whatnot has live sneaker shows 24/7 that have auctions that start at just $1. My favorite thing about Whatnot is that when you buy a shoe or product from the platform, you have a chance to actually check out the shoe. The seller shows you the shoe, you can ask questions live. So if you do end up winning the auction and buying the product, you know exactly what you're getting. Not only that, but when you buy something from Whatnot, it ships really fast. Personally, I love Whatnot because I just love the community side of it. Sometimes I just go on and watch my friends streaming or people that I don't even know streaming just because it's fun to watch people talk about things that they're passionate about. And other times I just go on to spend money, I'm not gonna lie. In fact, I'll actually be doing my own Whatnot live stream this Friday, January 28th at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And here's a preview of what that live stream will look like. Hey guys, make sure to tune into my Whatnot live stream on Friday, January 28th at 7 p.m. Eastern time. I'll be selling some sneakers from the $20 sneaker collection, and yes, this is a pair of Yeezys, it's crazy, as well as some sneakers from my own personal collection, and I might also be giving away a pair of sneakers, so make sure to stay tuned for that. But if you guys want to check it out, make sure to tune in on Whatnot on Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure to sign up for Whatnot using my link in the top of the description, and if you use my link, you get $10 towards anything you want to buy on Whatnot. And that $10 can be used towards anything, whether it's sneakers from my live stream or N64 games or even Pokemon cards. So seriously, make sure to check out Whatnot by clicking my link in the description below, and I'll see you guys on Friday. So I don't think I've ever formally reviewed a pair of Yeezy Slides. I've had pairs in the past, I've unboxed pairs, but I've never actually worn a pair for an extended period of time just because it was never really my thing. And besides the fact that I started to notice that everyone was wearing Yeezy Slides and it's probably a shoe that I should start to get to know, I also bought a pair for my wife and she loved it, and I realized I really want to try a pair for myself. So that's when this happened, the Yeezy Slide Ochre. So I bought this pair on GOAT about 2 or 3 days after the release of the shoe, and I started wearing this shoe and wearing it some more. In fact, I wore this shoe almost every single day for an entire month, almost the entire day each day. For me, this has almost become like a 24/7 shoe. I wear this shoe around the house, I wear this shoe when I'm walking the dog, I wear this shoe when I go to the store, I wear this shoe all the time. And I've got to be honest, I get it now. I totally understand why people love this shoe. This shoe is amazing. So to start things off, the Yeezy Slide has a retail price of $60 and releases probably once every quarter in a couple different colorways. Now unfortunately, because it's a Yeezy shoe and this has become one of the most popular Yeezy shoes, it's almost impossible to grab a pair for retail. In fact, I had to spend, I believe, $140 on this pair for myself, which to be fair is a lot of money to pay for a pair of slides. In fact, even though I don't wear slides that often, I have like 5 different pairs, and I don't think I've ever paid more than like $30 for a pair because I grab most of my pairs at the outlets. So I'm not gonna lie, paying $140 for a pair of slides was a tough pill to swallow. But I've gotta say, after the month of wearing this shoe almost every day straight, I get it. I'm not saying that $140 is reasonable for this pair of shoes. I think that still is a lot. I think you should try and grab this shoe for retail, but I'm not mad at spending the money. So to fill you guys in on the Yeezy Slide, if you don't own a pair for yourself or you don't know anything about it, essentially this shoe is one piece of injection molded EVA foam. And what that means is that this shoe is created all at once. This shoe is one piece. There was never 2 pieces that were glued together. I've seen some people talk about the parting lines being the lines where they glued 2 parts of the shoe together. That's not the case. That's where the 2 different actions of the mold came together and they pulled apart. You can find a parting line like like this on pretty much anything that's made out of plastic or rubber or really anything that's injection molded. In fact, almost everything in this studio and probably most of the things in your house right now have parting lines on them. And that's just because anything that's molded and has two different parts of a mold coming apart or coming together always has a parting line, whether it's hidden on some part of the product that you can't see or whether they cut down the parting line and make it so it's almost not visible. But it's always there, especially on products like this that are one piece. That's not two different things glued together. In fact, there's more parting lines around this part of the shoe right here because there probably was a third action, as they call it, a third piece of metal that was inside the footbed of the shoe and pulled out as these two parts came apart like this. Honestly, molding and manufacturing is super interesting. I actually did a lot of it in my previous life as an industrial designer, and that's why stuff like this is so interesting. Even though it's such a simple product, it's made of one piece of material, it was still such a complex process to make this simple shoe. And actually, another kind of cool detail that you might have missed is this circle right here at the toe. So there are two things that this circle could have been. This either could have been the injection point where they shot the foam into the mold to actually create the shoe, and then they cut it off when they removed it from the mold because usually there's like a flange that sticks out, or it was part of the action inside the mold that actually pushes the shoe out of the mold because sometimes when you're creating a soft thing like this, it gets stuck to the mold. So it's either the thing that pushed the shoe out of the mold or the thing that shot the material into the mold. I'm assuming it's probably the thing that shot the material into the mold, but I'm not 100% sure. All that aside, it's a super interesting process. If you're interested in manufacturing at all, I definitely recommend YouTubing it. It's super cool to see. But nerdy stuff aside, this shoe really is awesome, and I love the way this shoe looks. I think it's fair to say that this shoe is definitely on the bulkier side when it comes to slides. This shoe is definitely covering up more of your foot than your standard like Jordan slides or Adidas slides would. And that obviously has a lot to do with Kanye's aesthetic. He always goes for a much more organic and a much more out there, futuristic, minimalistic look for his sneakers. And what's interesting about this shoe is that it was actually inspired by Japanese zori, which is traditional Japanese footwear. Maybe not the overall aesthetics of the shoe, but the way that you wear it. So in a lot of ways, this shoe is not like a regular slide, and one of those ways is the way that you wear it. In fact, usually on most slides, your heel kind of lands about at this point on the shoe, but in this shoe, your heel is actually supposed to rest a little bit over the back of it. It's definitely not a look that a lot of people are used to when it comes to wearing slides, but when you actually try it out, it really feels great on foot. And actually, while we're talking about on foot, why don't we talk about the sizing of the Yeezy slide? So for this part of the video, I actually grabbed my wife's pair of Yeezy slides because this shoe is actually kind of different than the Ochres and not just in colorway. So this is a pure colorway that released a couple years back, and what's interesting about this shoe is that the sizing of this sneaker is actually completely different than the Ochres. So in all of the previous Yeezy slides up until the Yeezy Slide Ochres, you wanted to go either a half size up or a full size up. And that's because the midfoot band across the top of your foot was very tight, especially with socks. You may be able to get away with wearing one of these older styles without socks in your true size. However, your heel really will rest over the back of the shoe pretty heavily, and some people don't like that. So if you're searching for a more traditional fit in some of the older colorways of the shoe, I would definitely recommend going up a half size or a whole size. However, when it comes to the newer colorway, the Yeezy Foam Ochre, this shoe actually seems to have the sizing fixed. In fact, I went true to size on this shoe and it fits me perfectly. It seems like even though the original inspiration for this shoe was to have your heel kind of hanging off the back of it, people didn't like that, and so Adidas and Yeezy decided to adjust it. And now, in my true size, the Yeezy slides fit a lot closer to a standard pair of slides than the previous Yeezy slides. So my recommendation, if you're grabbing a pair of Yeezy slides in the Ochre colorway or any of the newer colorways that come out after this release, which at the time of filming this video have not come out yet, but are slated to come out soon, you should probably be fine going true to size. Another kind of interesting change between the Yeezy Slide Ochres and the older Yeezy slides is that the texture has changed. On the older slides, the shoes seemed to have a very smooth, almost semi-gloss finish, which wasn't bad and allowed your foot to slide in and out of the shoe pretty easily, but on the newer slides, you've got a much rougher and more textured feel, which is interesting and kind of rubs against your socks a little bit more than I would like. Actually, speaking of socks, did you check out the brand new Apothecary Basic socks that I'm wearing in the on-foot portions of this video? They're absolutely fire, they're incredibly comfortable on feet, and you can grab pairs right now through the link in the description below at apothecary.com. And if you didn't know, Apothecary is a sock brand that I co-founded alongside one of my college friends. We've been blown away by the support that you guys have shown us, and if you guys want to check out the socks for yourself, because in my opinion, they're the best socks ever, make sure to click the link in the description below. But other than the overall roughness of the texture, the actual makeup of the foam doesn't feel any different, and both shoes are incredibly comfortable underfoot. And actually, speaking of comfort, the Yeezy Slide is one of the most comfortable shoes in my entire collection. I never thought that would be the case. I know I should have thought that would be the case, especially because the foam runners are as comfortable as they are, and I wear these shoes all the time, and the foam is very similar to the Yeezy Slide. But the EVA foam used in the midfoot of this shoe is incredibly soft, incredibly cushy, and it bounces back really nicely. So when you step into the shoe, you feel like you're kind of falling into this nice cushion, but then it sort of bounces you back out, so you never feel sluggish when you're walking. And I think the underfoot feel of this shoe is not just because of the softness of the foam, but also because of these large gaps between the tread of the shoe. In fact, when you actually step into this shoe, the tread kind of splits apart ever so slightly and allows the shoe to compress even more down towards the ground, which makes it feel even softer than the foam actually is. I seriously can't get over it. This shoe is incredibly comfortable underfoot, and I absolutely love it. Now, the one part of this shoe that some people might find not comfortable or less comfortable than the rest of this shoe is the midfoot strap, or this midfoot cover. Now, the reason for that is because this part of the shoe is very thick and very wide, so it doesn't allow your foot to move as much as I think some people might want your foot to be able to move, and in some cases this edge could rub against your toes if you get a shoe that doesn't fit very well. I've also found that sometimes these edges can rub against my feet. It's not very often, and I only really notice it when I'm wearing this shoe barefoot, but that's just something to keep in mind. Even though there are some parts of the shoe that can rub in certain situations, overall it's an incredibly comfortable shoe. Now, as far as durability, the Yeezy Slide is a surprisingly durable shoe. In fact, like the Yeezy Foam Runner, even after wearing the shoe for a month, there's barely any wear on this shoe at all. I don't know what it is about the EVA foam that they use in these Yeezy foam shoes, but this foam just doesn't wear that easily. In fact, the only real visible wear that I'm seeing on this shoe is on the outside of the heel, because I kind of lean a little bit to the outside of my heels, and the foam is wearing in this really interesting way where it kind of gets a little bit furry, which is kind of a weird way to describe it, but that's how it looks, and that's about it. Nothing else is really happening to the shoe even after wearing this shoe every day for a month. Like, the foam itself is still intact. There's no chunks, there's no areas that are like almost worn through. I mean, I guess there are some areas where it's creasing, like in the tread and maybe around the heel of the shoe, but even that is very hard to see, especially with this texture. Maybe that's why they added the texture to kind of hide the creasing, but even now, after wearing the shoe for as long as I did, it still looks almost brand new. Now, the last thing I wanted to cover in this video is the aesthetics of this shoe, because obviously this shoe has a very unique look. Personally, I love weird looking footwear, especially when it's minimalistic and almost monolithic. This shoe looks like you're wearing a giant piece of foam on your feet, and I absolutely love it. It's crazy, it's wild, it's out there, but at the same time, it's simple and it's refined. This is honestly how I think future loungewear is gonna look, and I think that's sort of the vibe that Kanye is going for, and I'm all for it. I love it. Now, I totally understand if some people don't like the way this slide looks. It's definitely a interesting looking slide, and it's not for everybody, but honestly, I feel like the comfort makes up for that. If you don't like the way the shoe looks, try it on. It's super soft underfoot, and you might really love it, even though you don't like the way it looks. As far as finishes go, the ochre is the first colorway that features any kind of sort of color mixing. It's got some very subtle darker browns or almost dark oranges sort of marbled throughout the upper of the shoe, whereas with the older colorways, they all come with one simple monochromatic look. Based on the leaks that I'm seeing, it looks like Kanye is going to be doing more mixed and more marbled looks when it comes to Yeezy slides, and I'm all for that. I love that kind of aesthetic, but at the same time, he probably will release more of these simple looks if you prefer this style instead. But I've got to say that overall, I'm starting to really understand why this shoe is as popular as it is. First of all, the price point, if you can get this shoe for retail, 60 bucks is incredibly doable, and I think for $60, although that is sort of expensive for a pair of slides, once you try these on, you're going to totally understand it. Secondly, the comfort of the Yeezy Slide is incredible. Once you step into this shoe and feel the squishiness under your foot, you're going to love it. And the third thing I love about this shoe is the aesthetics and the looks of this shoe. It's kind of wild looking, it's different than any other pair of slides I've ever seen before, but it's also got this super minimal and super clean aesthetic, and I love that about it. And this is one of those shoes that I can throw on with pretty much any pair of shorts or any pair of sweats, and it looks great. So with that being said, after wearing the Yeezy Slides for an entire month, I love this shoe. This is definitely a shoe that I will be keeping in my collection, and definitely a shoe that I'm gonna have to grab a lot more colorways of. I know I shouldn't because they're expensive, but I want to. But now I would love to know your thoughts on the Adidas Yeezy Slides, and whether you have a pair, and if you do have a pair, what your thoughts on this shoe is. So make sure to let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you all in the next one.